Welcome to Clinically Speaking, the podcast that combines clinical insight with the chaos of reality TV, because somebody has to diagnose this drama.
For legal purposes, this is a joke. We would never diagnose someone who is not our client.
I'm Callie, she, her.
I'm Alex, she, her.
We're licensed marriage and family therapists here to review episodes 1 through 14 of Love Island USA Season 7. Let's start off with Bella and Nick, Alex.
For me personally, I just know that Nick is terrorizing the women of Florida. I mean, he's so cute, so charming, but I have to agree with TikTok when they said this man has zero object permanence. I mean, I think he was really foreshadowing when he said that his friends call him feral. Like, sir, you're an RN. Please get a rabies vaccine or something. What was your impression of Nick?
Similar, because I feel like I've met this man in a hostel. He's the guy that your friend disappears with for 2 hours at the hostel, and like she comes back having had a great time, but like we don't know what happened.
I think we do know what happened.
But I think that he and Bella were cute together. It was short and sweet.
Cue Sabrina Carpenter. Short and sweet. Yeah, agree.
I do definitely think that he and Sierra are a better fit, though.
Before we get into like Nick and Sierra, I do have to say you already know my dream couple is Sierra and Shelly. The way I screamed when she threw that coin.
Gently placed the coin on the ground.
And I feel like I, from the get-go, was like, this is my dream couple.
You've been saying it, and I was so confused. I was like, I don't think they've even spoken to each other. What are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
Listen, I said they were building the suspense, and guess what? I was right.
And you were right.
And
you were right.
I just saw them together. I said something fruity is afoot because Sierra was giving me vibes. Like, as soon as she walked in and said, I kissed all the boys, it's time to kiss the girls, I said, oh, interesting, noted.
She and Nick are also cute together.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do like Sierra and Nick together. I feel like they're very cute. What are your impressions of them?
I would like to see more of them. I feel like they've got a really good vibe, a nice connection, but I just feel like I want more of them on my screen. I need to gather more information.
Definitely. I love when I saw Sierra talking to Nick about the Bella situation, and she said that she wanted to talk to him and wanted to figure out if it was a one-off situation that he didn't tell her about the kiss that they had. Or if it was indicative of a larger problem. It's so funny, when I was watching it with my girlfriend, she said, that's so you. You know, I kind of see things, I'm like, is this a pattern? But I also want to give the benefit of the doubt. But then if I start to see a pattern emerging, I definitely want to address it. And I felt like I don't know about you, but I felt like she handled it really in a very healthy way. She was calm, validating, and I thought it went really well. How did you feel?
I totally agree. I feel like she did that nice soft start, non-accusatory, really just coming at it from she wanted to gather information. She's just trying to figure out if this was going to work for her. I think she's a great communicator in general.
Agree. And yeah. I really liked when Nick also called in Jeremiah saying, you know, you and Huda are in a relationship. I felt like you should have comforted her. I don't think that's the way I forget the exact word you used, but I don't think that's the way you treat somebody who you say you care about. That was really, really amazing to see, because I don't think we see a lot of men call each other in and say, hey, I think you could have treated somebody better. And that made me have a lot more respect for Nick and the way he handles situations.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
My crush on Nick is growing every episode.
And just thinking about the way that they both communicate and the way that they communicate with each other made me think about Gottman, and I feel like they're both a very validating couple. I don't know if you
very validating. Yeah, they express their emotions towards each other, and they're very even-keeled, but they're not afraid of actually addressing things either. So I think that they're really compatible in that communication style for sure. I would like to figure out if their lifestyle outside the villa is going to be compatible long term, but I think their communication works really well.
Yeah, I think they both really try to listen to understand, and they hear each other's perspective, and so I really liked that. Although, despite all of that, cute confessions by Usher, Callie and I do have something to say. We are both Nick and Only Andrea stans, and we like all of their content on TikTok.
This was another situation where I was like seeing people talking about it. I was like, do they even interact with each other? What are people seeing that I'm not seeing? And then people were making edits, and I was like, no, I think they're in love.
They've convinced us.
They convinced us.
Well, I was convinced from the start. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay. I was kind of in that vibe. When he kissed her with the blindfold challenge, I said, I like what I see there.
When he carried her out of that little cabin in the lumberjack challenge.
With that giant smile on his face.
I think that did something to both of us, and I think for very different reasons.
Very true.
But that image floored. Stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah, for my personal reason, I would say, can somebody figure out, because I'm in my 30s, I don't know, but can somebody figure out how to do an Olandria edit to the song Father Figure like they did with Meg Thee Stallion? If somebody can do that, DM me. I need to see it. Speaking of Olandria, though.
Yes.
How on earth is somebody saying, I'm not physically attracted to her? Looking at you, Taylor.
There's things we can't control about our physical chemistry with people. Sure. I'm confused, though.
Yeah, watching them on my screen and seeing their connection, and I want you guys to know that when I'm saying connection, I am using air quotes. I have never resonated so much to an animated character before than I have to Sleepy in Snow White, because I'm just bored. I'm bored of them. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. Because I'm serious. I really do. He doesn't even look at her when they're talking.
No.
He looks out into the sky, which, have you seen Olandria?
Why would you look anywhere else?
They would be like, Alex, can you stop looking at her? Like, can you put a mask on or something over your face? I mean, she's so beautiful. And besides just looks, I mean, she is just like, I really love the way she communicates. I really love the way she carries herself. So I don't get it.
I was hoping that she would be feeling it more with Jalen when he came in because he thought she was gorgeous. And I very much understand her perspective of, I want somebody to appreciate my brain and personality as well, which is obviously so important. I feel like she needs a mix of the two. Maybe she and Nick can get together.
Anyways, looking at you, Nick. And I was also thinking that Olandria and Nick would be a very validating couple as well. Yeah. Leaning towards the opposite direction. I think that Taylor is conflict avoidant in his communication. When he and Olandria were talking about him standing up for Sierra, I felt like he was a little bit dismissive and defensive throughout the conversation when he was saying, you can't feel upset about that.
Yes, she can.
yes,
she can.
Sir, please go to episode 2 of Clinically Speaking and listen to validation, learn it, absorb it, and then practice it. And Gottman research does tell us that couples that are incongruent in their communication styles, like a conflict avoidant person and a validating person, they don't tend to make the best couples. If they are both validating or both conflict avoidant, that tends to work better. And I think that's another reason why they're incompatible, is because he's more conflict avoidant and she's more validating. Oh, and for those who might be unfamiliar, Julie and John Gottman are researchers and a powerhouse couple, and they've studied couples over decades and compiled what they learned in their research into the Gottman method, which is a therapeutic modality used by couples therapists. Speaking of couples with no chemistry,
I'm so confused about the Shelley and Austin pairing. I don't understand it. I just think that these two really like each other as people. I think they've got a decent friendship going here, which they've both acknowledged.
But to quote, who was it, Ace? This is not Friendship Island.
I think it was Amaya.
This is not Friendship Island.
It's not. Also, just to backtrack for a second, I feel like Taylor is here for Friendship Island. He's just here to be besties with everybody.
True. I did not see any, like, romantic spark, and them having the same conversation over and over and over again, and her saying, this is really what I like in a partner, and him, I guess, listening. I mean, I think just we need as a society to get to the point of maybe we're just not compatible. If she likes to do spontaneous things, he didn't do that, so I think he's somebody who just likes to hang out and chill.
Which is fine,
totally
but not
fine.
what she's looking for.
Exactly, just call a spade, say, you know what, it is what it is, you like this, I like that, maybe we're just not compatible, that's fine.
That's fine.
But I
still respect you.
Exactly. Yeah. But I will say, I feel like I definitely saw some red flags with Austin.
His whole intro video in the first episode was a red flag.
Correct.
First of all, why are you spilling drinks on women to get them to talk to you? That's fucked up.
Yeah. And a lot of women spend a lot of time getting ready, getting a nice outfit together, and then you just ruin it.
So you're just gonna, like, go get people wet for no reason, like, in a bad way? Like...
Speaking of that, him saying he sleeps with his customers. I mean, sir, have some decorum on the job site.
All that tells me is you don't, first of all, you have terrible boundaries in general.
Horrible.
And that you don't really care about your job.
Yeah.
If your biggest complaint about your job is that your boss doesn't let you sleep with your customers, sir.
Long pause.
Meanwhile, I don't really know what a day trader is, to be honest, but I'm assuming Shelly had to put in some hard work to get to that point in her career. So I just feel like their values are very different when it comes to their life and their lifestyle.
I agree. I did kind of feel sad when they recoupled, meaning Ace and Shelly and Amaya and Austin. When Shelly said that she's been waiting for this, Austin did look a little sad. So that made me feel bad for him, you know. Mm-hmm. But I also didn't really love that, per Shelly's confessional, he didn't tell her that he was interested in Amaya.
Yeah, he's been talking about how he hates being in this love triangle with Ace. Meanwhile, he made out with Amaya, going out of his way to spend time with her and not mentioning it all. So...
Right, we didn't really see that he had that conversation.
Little double standards.
Yeah.
And actually.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of Shelly and Ace, thoughts?
Great chemistry between the two of them. Obviously, I think we can agree Ace also has chemistry with everyone and everything. But I think they have great chemistry. I think they like each other a lot. I worry about just kind of developmentally if they're going to work together. The difference between 22 and 27 is massive, right? I think that when you get a little bit older, a 5-year age gap isn't a problem. But 22 is very much a young adult. You are barely out of your adolescence. And so I just think his emotional maturity and, like, developmental maturity, not in any critical way of him, he's just not where she's at developmentally. And so I think while they're having a great time together in the villa, I have a hard time seeing that working in real life. Yeah,
I agree. My favorite scene between the two of them, I really loved when Shelly said, I'm not trying to be the perfect girl for Ace. I'm trying to be Shelly. And I loved that. And I feel like that is really indicative of her being 27 and him being 22.
Yes, she has lived and learned. She knows who she is. She is an established individual. I love her.
I do too.
I will say, wild that she said that to him. And then when they were doing the recoupling at the door challenge, everything that he said about her was how she benefits him and that she's gorgeous. Yeah. Which is an objective fact. You're not saying anything new. And also a wild understatement.
Yeah.
And then he just talked about how much she has helped him grow and challenges him. Were you not listening when she said she doesn't care about being your perfect girl? Talk about how great she is as a person. So that was a little bit of a red flag.
I feel the same way. Speaking of Ace and developmental stages, I think that Amaya is close in age to him.
Yeah, I think she's like 24, 25. I don't think that developmental issues are their problem. These two just have wildly different communication styles. So I think that goes back to what we were saying about Olandria and Taylor. So again, Gottman research tells us that we have 3 types of couple communication styles. And when both partners in the couple have the same style, regardless of which of those 3 things it is, those couples generally work out pretty well. So as you had mentioned, we've got validating couples. These couples express emotion in moderation, and they're usually like very warm towards one another. Conflict avoidant couples are a little less emotionally expressive. They usually like agree to disagree. And then we have volatile couples who are highly emotionally expressive and passionate and can view conflict as a way to connect with each other.
And I think our favorite Dominican lady, Amaya, says it best when she said she likes to argue with her partner and that she likes some, quote, toxic love.
Yeah. So not necessarily a bad thing, right? She wants to be really engaged in her relationships, and I think that's really fair.
Yes, please don't be mad at me and Callie. The docs did pick this name, so you can thank them for that.
Yeah. So she's clearly very affectionate. She's calling everybody babe, not just him, right? It's just how she engages with the people around her. Meanwhile, Ace clearly doesn't work with that. I think jury's still out of whether we think he fits more into the conflict avoiding versus validating style. I think that as we see him and Shelley actually have a couple, we'll be able to figure that out a little bit better. But clearly, he and Amaya are so mismatched. They had 4 or 5 different conflicts in the span of 48 hours.
Yeah, and I think the Gottmans probably feel very validated themselves because they say that these couples, when they're not aligned in their communication style, they don't work. And I think that's exactly what we saw.
Exactly. And they say, too, that when there's a mismatch, women tend to get more emotional over time and men tend to get less emotional over time. Not even over time for these two. It literally took 2 days for them to get into this, like, really problematic pattern of communication between the two of them.
Yeah, you saw it really go downhill quickly. They started kind of calm-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then devolved to that last conversation, quote, quote, on the dog, where they weren't communicating at all. And I think that she started to get really agitated and was really not capable of listening to him anymore. And we kind of see him just decide to stop listening to her too.
Yeah, I think we saw them both become very emotionally flooded, which means that their body became aroused and they got into that fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, which essentially you're unable to process information when you're in such a heightened physiological state. And I think that was a really good depiction of that. And that is also a term that the Gottmans coined, which is emotional flooding.
And how could we forget Ace's initial couple?
Yulissa, you know what you did.
Yulissa has left the villa.
Speaking of leaving the villa, how did we feel about Charlie and Hannah?
Just to bring it full circle, these are also people that you meet in a hostel. Okay? This is a couple that they meet in a hostel and they have a 2-week whirlwind romance and never speak again. I think the villa is a fancy hostel. And like... and that's exactly what happened. They had a 2-week whirlwind romance and it's over and they're never going to speak again. And that's fine. And I think that's honestly what Hannah is really looking for. I felt really bad for him, though, with that end. He was really starting to grow on me, and so it was really sad to see him leave as I was finally starting to like him.
Yeah, I felt like he was really good at being validating, and when him and Hannah were having conversations, I was really impressed at his ability to regulate himself, and when they were communicating, focusing on their connection throughout the conflict, I thought he did that really well.
Yeah.
And to me, at times, I felt Hannah leaning towards validating, leaning towards conflict avoidance. So I think, again, jury's still out on that one. We haven't seen too much of her, but in terms of the communication,
I agree. I also did love as he was getting sent home and she was breaking down and he was like, "Can I go to her?" Oh, that got me. Even as he knows he's getting sent home and she's not going with him. He still wanted to check on her.
Yes, I totally agree. I was excited for her to try and be vulnerable because she was really saying she was trying to put a new foot forward, essentially, and trying to do something new, and America was like, psych! Literally. I will say, too, that I did appreciate that Charlie was not afraid to own the fact that he likes quote-unquote more stereotypical feminine things like Katy Perry. I thought that was a good representation of healthy masculinity in that sense, that he was able to say, like, I like this, because there's no shame in that.
Yeah. No, I really ended up liking him.
How do we feel about the new recoupling? Thanks, America, to Hannah and Pepe.
I think they have great chemistry, obviously.
Yeah, I unfortunately believe Hannah is the female ace, so she could probably have chemistry with anyone.
That's probably true.
That's kind of the vibe she's giving me.
And last but certainly not least is Huda and Jeremiah.
Y'all already know these two are raising eyebrows, blood pressures, and red flags by everybody in the villa. So we might need to do a deeper dive on them later, but no promises. I think Callie and I have to talk to our PCPs about getting a blood pressure medication before we can promise anything like that.
If you have any questions or suggestions, you can email us at clinicallyspeakingpod@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram or TikTok at clinicallyspeakingpod.
We hope you enjoy listening as much as we enjoy making these episodes.
Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for our next recap episode.
As you know, helping professionals are not raking in the big bucks, so please make sure to subscribe to Clinically Speaking in your podcast app and follow us at Clinically Speaking Pod on TikTok and Instagram.
This is an opportunity to discuss theoretical topics, but as always, we are not diagnosing any individuals, nor are we providing clinical treatment or recommendations. We're discussing our opinions that happen to be informed by a clinical perspective, however, they are still our personal opinions. If you want to apply these concepts in your personal life, we encourage you to speak to a therapist in your area.